What's up, everybody? So let's talk about Sahara Lottie. So who is Sahara Lottie? Sahara and Kim Porter were really good friends up until Kim Porter passed away a few years ago. And y'all know that Kim is Diddy's baby mama. And Sahara has a celebrity eyelash company called Lashified. And she was on the infamous podcast. And on this podcast, she talks about her relationship with Kim and Kim's relationship with Diddy. Crazy, crazy. And I first saw this on the Impressive channel, so I decided to go and listen to this podcast. And it's quite interesting. And I wanted to share it with you guys too. So without further ado, let's get into this interview with Sahara.
What did you think of her? Like your first impressions?
Freaking cool. Just like incredibly cool, incredibly beautiful. She has this air of just like a queen. The way she spoke was really Southern, and she was like ridiculously gorgeous, but also ridiculously hilarious and just really down to earth.
So she's from Georgia, and she was a model and a debutante.
She was
right. And she had an acting career.
Yeah. I mean, I think she was more of a model than she was an actress. She also loved to sing. She was working for Andre Harrell or something, and then met him during that time.
And so, what did she tell you about Diddy, who, when they were together, was called Puffy?
I mean, she always referred to him as Puffy. She obviously had kids with him. And just so you know, this is the first time I'm talking about something like this in public. Her daughters are great, and her sons, Quincy and Christian, are awesome. But, you know, there's a lot out there right now. It was hard. It was really hard. But at the same time, they were very, very good friends. He relied on her. She used to come over like all the time on her way over the hill, because she lived in the valley and I lived on the hill. So she would stop by. And anytime she was over, whether it be an hour or 5 hours, like, he was blowing up her phone the whole time. And it took a couple of years for me to understand the dynamic.
So they're not together though at this point.
They're not together, but it was almost like they were together, if that makes sense. Like, they weren't together, but like every Christmas was her and the kids on a yacht, him, nobody else is allowed to come. Every Thanksgiving she'd be cooking. So it was very family. Family was really, really important to her. And she really tried to keep it together. But I didn't like the dynamic of what I was seeing. Like, I knew that it was causing her pain, basically.
Mm-hmm. So did you talk to her about it?
Oh, yeah, we talk about it all the time. See, Kim was very generally a private person, but we just became really fast friends. And we connected. She was also really deep, spiritual, had like a deep belief in God, and knew that she could trust me, essentially. And she was like almost stuck with him. Like, if she was seeing somebody and he got a whiff of that, somehow she wouldn't be seeing that person anymore. And it wasn't based on something she did. It was based on something he would do.
Like what? What do you mean by that? Like somehow call the person?
Yeah, she was seeing this basketball player for a while. And then the basketball player was seeing another singer. And the singer said, hey, let's be exclusive. And he said, no, I'm seeing someone else. And she said, who? And he said, Kim Porter. The singer went to Puff, and then next thing you know, the basketball player never calls again. But she helped him a lot. He would use her as like a sounding board, almost like his rock in a weird way. But on one hand, you could tell she couldn't stand him. And on the other hand, she loved him. But she basically said to me, he's changed. He's not the same person that he used to be.
Because they were together from like the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Till like 2007.
But
it's a long time.
Yeah, but he pulled a lot of shit. Like, when they were together, when she thought everything was amazing, next thing you know, the whole Jennifer Lopez thing comes out. And then the whole time he's with Kim, it's like from the outside he was showing something different. And then when she got pregnant with the twins, he ends up getting another woman pregnant at the same time. And that was when she finally was like, later, dude. from what I knew, it was a very toxic, crazy relationship in the 90s, and she got away from that, but she couldn't quite get away from, I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of stuff after she transitioned, a lot of stuff came to light that almost I feel like she was kind of hiding in a way.
You mean transition to when, after she died?
Yeah. And, a lot of stuff came, because I remember once we went shopping, and it was like a YSL jacket or something. And I was like, oh yeah, you should get that. And she's like, no, I can't get that. And I was like, why? Just have Puff buy it for you. And she looks at me, she goes, it does not work like that. And I was like, what do you mean? And then I realized, like, in order to get anything out of him, she had to, like, do something in return, whether it was spend time with him or whatever. It's like he was what looked like generous from the outside, but in reality not.
Didn't he come over to your house or something and say, like, oh, you're into this spiritual shit?
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. He was supposed to come over on a Sunday, and then he flaked out. And she was like, no, I want you to hang out with Sahara. And he, like, couldn't. He, like, didn't do it. Now that I, see all of it, it all makes sense.
Why?
Because he was a bad dude, He was a bad dude. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that Kim was ride or die for him. Mm-hmm. I was like, yo, just leave. Like, he offered her $1 million once. Like, he could feel that she was disconnecting from him. And he, like, called her, like, crying, hysterical. Please, I can't. Don't, Kim, I'll give you $1 million. I'll give you $1 million. And then when she said that to me, I was like, all right, I'm going to get you an attorney. Let's get an attorney. Let's get this signed up. And she was like, no. She never, like, she should have just gotten that money. But she never did. When I tell you she was so ride or die, like, there's, like, rumors on the internet saying, like, Kim Porter was writing a book. She wasn't writing a book. Vanessa, she was, like, loyal to the bone. Like, she was not that kind of person. She wasn't writing a book about Puff. If she was going to write a book, she would have written a book 500 years ago and not dealt with his ass. You know what I mean? She was never, ever in a million years going to write a book about him.
Right.
But she wanted to keep it together for her family. But I know that she was horrified by him. The whole, like, love, family, all that was total BS. And she'd said that. It's total bullshit. She's like, he's the worst fucking dad in the world.
This is Infamous from Campside Media.
What about all this crazy sex stuff, though? Did she tell you that there was, like, evil stuff going on with sex at his house? Did you have
I had a sense of it. I knew that she had, like, some weird suspicions. For example, the Cassie thing, because, Cassie is who he was claiming on the outside. But when I would see how he would, like, blow her phone up all day long, I was like, I'm so confused because I'm seeing what's really happening. And I said to her, like, what's up with this Cassie chick? Like, do you, like, hate her or what? And she was like, no. And I was like, what do you mean? And she finally looks at me. She goes, I feel sorry for her. I said, why? And she looks at me and she goes, no, man, better her than me. And I didn't understand what that meant until I read the lawsuit. Like I said, she was, on one hand, I think she couldn't stand him. She told me she didn't like his scent. But on the other hand, she loved him. But she said, he's not the same person he used to be. So, like, he changed. And so it's really hard when you fall in love with someone and they're, like, your person, and then all of a sudden that person switches on you. You don't really know what to do. But there was a lot of pain inside of her from all the things that he did. It's not like you have this partner that, like, treats you like shit and then you move on. It's like you have this partner that treats you like shit and won't let you move on. Like, there was not a chance in the world that she was going to be able to get married, be with another man, just not a chance in the world. Like, it was never going to happen. So I was under the impression, like, oh, okay, he must be giving her a ton of money. And then when I realized that, like, half of the jewels that she had weren't bought by him. Kim was she was a lady. Like I said, she was old fashioned, Southern, cook breakfast in the morning, feed the kid, and I didn't like that he would almost, like, booty call her. And I knew she didn't want to be with his ass. Like, he'd booty call her. And it's like, and if she didn't show up, like, the lights were not going to be on the next day.
Tell me about the experience of reading the Cassie lawsuit, reading that online. Like, what did you see in there? What did you read? And, like, how did you feel when you read it?
It made sense. It all made sense. It's almost like she was, like, his light side. Does that make sense? Like, she was...
Kim, you mean?
Yeah. She was the light, right? family, and she was keeping everything together and she was keeping it together, which is why he imploded, right? It all made sense because he broke her down.
You mean Kim?
Oh, yeah.
He broke Kim down.
Oh, yeah.
And so you see in the lawsuit that he's breaking down
Yeah.
Cassie,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
He won't really let her career happen.
No.
He's allegedly forcing her to have sex and these freak offs.
Yeah, I can tell you,
people.
I can tell you Kim was not doing that shit. Because I do know that she told me a story about once when they got into it, like he tried to kick her ass and she like fought back and like stabbed him or some shit. Kim would like go to town on you. Like Kim was strong as hell, but he messed with her spirit. He messed with her heart. I remember once we were listening to this song by Ernestine Anderson, and it was called Don't Touch Me. It's about how a man cheats. And one of the lyrics is like, I'll never be your spare or something. You could tell she had like tears in her eyes. Like the pain was right there. The pain was like really active. Honestly, that's all we talked about was that dynamic. Like I almost felt like I was brought in her life to try to get her away from him. And I tried. But believe me when I tell you I tried. He was just stealing her light.
And so basically she died of a completely strange freak thing. Like what happened?
She and I were supposed to go to Palm Springs. And then she calls me that day. She's like, I can't go. I'm like, why? She's like, Puff called. Like, he wants me to go to the Turks and Caicos. And she's like, I gotta go. And I was like, okay. And she went. And I remember seeing a photo from one of his other, let's say, women in the same place, like 2 days before. And I was just like, ugh.
Wow.
And I was just like, so, ugh. But I didn't say anything. She sent me a couple message photos, etc., of her there. It looked beautiful. She came back and she was like, oh my God, it was the best trip ever. And like everyone's saying how like Puff is doing so well and he's like in such a better place. Because it was all about what kind of place is Puff in. Like, is he in the light or is he in the dark? Like that was basically like the constant like, oh yeah, he's back to normal. He's back to himself. But what was weird is that something about her was kind of off. Like, so he's good, but suddenly she's not, you know?
Right.
And then
it
was his 50th birthday, and we were supposed to go to the party together, and she had like called me 3 times being like, you're coming, right? You're coming, right? Because at the time I was like doing Lashify. I was super busy. I was antisocial. And I'm like, I'm coming. And then the day of the party, she never called me. And I was like, that's weird. And then I called her and she's like, yeah, yeah, you know, the girls came in town. And I was like, okay. So that's kind of weird. And then I remember seeing pictures of her at the party and I'm like, yo, this like doesn't even look like her. Like, something's weird. And then through a few days later, she's really sick. And she's like, oh man, I have this like crazy flu. And I called her, I'm like, what's up? And I remember she was like, I'm so sick. And that's how she sounded on the phone. And I was like, Kim, why do you sound like that?
Yeah.
Like, this was somebody that would be like, she was like, her voice had a melody. She'd be like, hey, hey, hey. And like, she sounded like this like guttural, weird sound. And I was like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? And so then I remember I texted her, I don't know, the next day. And I'm like, Kim, are you okay? And she goes, Kimberly down. Is what she wrote in the text message.
Yeah.
It's like weird. And then the next day she was gone.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Seriously? Whoa.
So honestly, I mean, Vanessa, what I thought it was like, this is like a spiritual death. Like some shit went down. Like I felt like whatever weird shit was in him was in her. I mean, I'm telling you, his energy was so freaking dark. During like the funeral and all that, I couldn't even say hello to him. On the day of her death, I went over there with her niece and his security guards wouldn't let us in.
Whoa.
They wouldn't let us. And then the security guard eventually the next day like apologized and whatever to me. But I was like, it was her house. And all of a sudden you realize it's actually not her house. Does that make sense? Like it was like he had her whole life on lock. And then for the services in Columbus, Georgia, one of her family members calls me like hysterical because they don't have the money to fly to the funeral and he won't pay for them. So I ended up paying for them.
Oh my God.
I ended up paying for them because he wouldn't pay. And after that, I was like, oh, fuck that. You're a piece of shit. And that's when I was like, What kind of man doesn't pay for the family of your supposed love of your life soulmate? That was the first time ever he actually put it out there that this was the love of my life. That part was true. That was the love of his life.
You mean after she died?
But he turned it into like the biggest PR thing of all time. But it's the first time he said, no, this is the love of my life.
Yeah, like he said, I don't know what I'm going to do without you, baby. I miss you so much. God. We were more than best friends. We were more than soulmates. We were some other shit. And I miss you so much. Super black love.
Whatever, man. Whatever. He completely disrespected that black woman. And I remember once I asked him, I was like, do you think he killed Tupac? She's like, no way. No way. She goes, Sahara, trust me. No way. And I'm like, you sure about that? She was ride or die for him.
I'm going to stop it right there. I will put the link of the podcast down in the description box, but she does continue to talk about 10 more minutes about Diddy and things like that. And y'all see how controlling, vindictive, and evil Diddy is. Do y'all see that? And y'all know that Sloan Bella on the YT predicted everything that was going to happen to Diddy. That lady is on point. I'm talking about on point. So, y'all, what do y'all think about this whole situation with Sahara Lottie, Kim Porter's friend, coming out and spilling the tea on Kim and Diddy's relationship and how evil and just a piece of shit Diddy is? Y'all know what y'all got to do. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. If you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe to my channel, share this video, like this video, and y'all know what y'all got to do. Stay tuned for the next video. Bye.